nearly at the end here. Tsar, you're alive and you've come home, cried Incanzo the Enchanter. I have, grinned Tsar, grinning with surprise from ear to ear, for he had been expecting expulsion at the worst, and at the best a few awkward questions, which was what normally happened when he made it back from an adventure. Sorry about the dead witch, father, and my room, and I've lost my spelling book again, but look! Tsar beckoned to the giants, the wizards, the dwarves and sprites who he had rescued from Sycorax's dungeons to come forward. The crowd gathered in Wizard Camp gasped as they recognised family members, friends and colleagues who they thought they would never see again. They rushed to embrace their lost relatives with cries of joy. That's even great enchanters of parents like the rest of us. And Tsar being hugged by his father with all the magic coming zooming off his head. I wanted to make amends, said Tsar proudly. I tried to take magic from a witch, and I stole a sword that brought the witch to us, so I returned the sword to Sycorax's dungeons, and while I was there, I realised she was keeping our people prisoners, so I rescued them. Well, for astonishingly mad but brave acts like that one, they would all be prepared to forgive Tsar, even if he had led troops of witches into the camp, as long as he killed them all, of course. Incanzo was very rarely pleased with his son, but here was his son doing something right for a change. The most important right thing of all being he had returned home alive. For the first time, Incanzo the King Enchanter shook his son by the hand as if he were an equal. Tsar thought he had never been so happy in his life. To see his father looking at him, Tsar, with such pride, such love, such admiration. To see everyone else in the camp cheering and applauding him. The Enchanter turned to the crowd. Perhaps there needs to be room in the wizard world for those who have no magic, cried the Enchanter. For look, these brave wizards, giants and sprites are returning to us with that magic removed. We need to find a place for these people, do we not, in our society? And the crowd cried back, we do, we do. I would like to propose 3 cheers for my son Tsar, said the Enchanter, who braved the terrors of Sycorax's dungeons to bring these old friends back to us at great danger to himself and his sprites and his animals. Tsar, 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 cheered the wizards. Why is Tsar so annoying? Raged Luther, clenching his fist. But my son has returned to me, and he returns a better person. Tsar has learned a lesson, smiled the Enchanter, that it is far, far wiser to wait for your magic to come in than to try to obtain it from a dark source. He turned to his son, and Tsar has taught me a lesson too. It is far, far better to have a son who has no magic than to have no son at all. Welcome home, Tsar. The Enchanter hugged his son, and then the Enchanter turned once more to the cheering crowd. So I declare this a day of thanks and celebration. Let's see, what should we call it, said the Enchanter. And if he hadn't been such a very great enchanter, there might have been a twinkle in the grim grey of his eye. We shall call it the celebration of Tsar not coming into his magic. Let the festivities begin. Now, wizards never need much excuse to have a party. The hall went mad, with fiddles magically playing themselves, the zigzagging glow of sprites zooming everywhere, and wizards and snowcats and giants and dwarves and animals of all shapes and sizes dancing and singing and howling to the dark winter sky. Are we free? Are we free now, master? Aaron asked, flying up to the Enchanter, wanting to get him while he was in a rare good mood. Don't forget that you promised us, Caliban and me, our freedom when the boy grows up and no longer need us. We are spirits too brave for a boy like Tsar. I haven't forgotten, snapped the Enchanter, his benevolence disappearing. But let's face it, Tsar will need you for a little while longer. I will not release you and Caliban until the boy grows up into a wise and thoughtful adult. That may never happen, said the Raven. In which case you will never be free, said the Enchanter grimly. And by the way, Caliban... yes, Enchanter, said Caliban, starting guiltily. At some point I want a full report of exactly what went on over the last 24 hours. Now is the time for celebration, but later you must tell me the whole truth and nothing but the truth, Caliban. And off the Enchanter swept with a rather unnerving thunderclap sweep of his cloak to join in the merrymaking. Rather you didn't tell him the whole truth, said Tsar. I will not release you until Tsar becomes a wise and thoughtful adult. When will that be? Yes, said Caliban. I think I might have leave out the bit about the sword being iron and magic mixed together, and the sprite being poisoned, and the witch inside the stone, and Wish being the girl of destiny. In fact, now I come to think of it, there's not a great deal of the story I can tell, is there? Definitely don't tell him this then, said Tsar, a mischievous glint in his eyes. He opened up his hand. There, right in the centre of the palm, was the very pale green mark of a washed out witch stain. Caliban gave a squawk of absolute horror. The witch stain, what happened? I thought you'd gotten rid of it. So did I, grinned Tsar, closing his fist around it again, but I must have come off the glycerine too quickly, and you know the best thing about it? Now Tsar could not repress his excitement. I think it's beginning to work. That is not a good thing, Tsar. But Tsar, gabbled poor Caliban, is bad magic from a dark sort. We've just gone through all this, and I thought you'd learnt your lesson and returned a better person, just like your father said. What has the whole moral of this entire adventure all been about? But Tsar had already hurried off, worried he was going to miss some of the Tsar not coming into his magic celebrations. The sprites joined enthusiastically into the festivities and were zooming around, getting into their usual mischief, such as Tiffenstone had a wonderful time aiming spells at people's food. So when they picked it up, it was something yummy, like a nice slice of apple pie, but by the time they reached it in their mouths, it had turned into something disgusting, like a giant slug. Squeezed set off a spink spell. They typically got it wrong, and instead of smelling bad eggs, it smelled rather deliciously of lemons. And Tsar showed off to all the prettiest girls without a care in the world. And meanwhile, poor old Caliban was sitting on a tree branch, worrying and trying to comfort himself. He's doing all the worrying for Tsar. Tsar isn't worrying. Maybe because the king witch is dead, the bird said to himself, the witches will go back to sleep again. Maybe even if they wake again in our lifetime, they will not find the girl, because she'll not be so silly as to venture out of the iron fort again, would she? Because maybe she is one of those rare humans who learn from their mistakes. Maybe. Then, as is the way of worries, having made himself feel better about one worry, he immediately started to worry about something else. Tsar wished for magic, and he got it, and this is bad magic indeed. And if his father ever finds out about it, then Tsar will be in bigger trouble than ever, worried Caliban. And though they are happy with him now, it will not take them long to remember his past disobediences, give a weird dog a bad name and all that. The old raven cocked his head to the other side as if to consider the alternatives. But then maybe Tsar will learn to control that magic of his before his father finds out. There is good in Tsar. And this adventure has brought that out too. The good in Tsar will control the bad in the bad blood. Maybe. Caliban, yelled Tsar from below. Stop sitting there being all gloomy and worrying. Tsar looked round him to check no one was looking, and he pointed his hand with the witch stone on it up at the tree branch. Tsar must have tried to perform magic 1,000 times before, and this had never worked. But this time, it was different. This time, he felt this extraordinary tingling feeling, a kind of pins and needles in his entire right arm. It was as if some weird muscle that he had never felt before was stretching out and unfurling. And to Tsar's delight, he could feel the magic curving out of his fingertips. Bam! It exploded the tree branch the Caliban was sitting on, and with a disgruntled shriek, the old bird fell out of the sky in a flurry of feathers and flapped protestingly in front of Tsar's grinning face. It worked, cried Tsar, looking at his hand in total delight. Everything has been worth it. I did get magic in the end after all. Caliban sighed a very, very deep sigh. The moral of the adventure had all gone wrong somehow, and Tsar learning to be good was going to take a little time. But in the meantime, worry tomorrow, old bird, Tsar smiled. Tonight we dance. And the wizard boy took the raven by the wings, and the old bird forgot to worry, and he became like a chick again, and Tsar whirled him round and round, dancing with him under the cold of the midnight stars. So that's sort of the end, but tomorrow we have the epilogue, which is one of my favourite bits, always the epilogue. So